Welcome back to the Growing Band Director Podcast. This is episode number 168. I have some thoughts as to jazz festivals and things that make them successful, as well as honors jazz festivals. And I guess this could be made to work in anything that is music, not just jazz related. For example, one of the best festivals I took my concert band and wind ensemble to was a number of years ago. I forget the company, but we were able to perform in Symphony Hall in Boston. And we went and performed in that space, so that was a memorable experience. And then we got Jack Stamp, and I forget the other clinician, came and worked with us for 30 minutes. That was far more impactful for my students and for my teaching in our program than was a rated festival. Not that ratings are bad. I think we should be achieving high ratings when we go for ratings, but it's about the music making experience, less about the final result. It's the journey, not the end, as John Wooden would say. So back to the jazz festival side of things. To me, there's three components to a jazz festival if you're hosting one, to encourage schools to come to you. These are pretty cheap to put on, not a ton of expenses. You have to pay your judges. You have to have a couple sound people to deal with microphones and balance and things like that. Past that, there's not a ton of expenses depending on how you want to do it. So you can make it pretty affordable for programs if they want to come to a jazz festival. To me, one thing that you need in a jazz festival is when students go to this festival, they need a chance to be able to perform, right? I mean, that's an obvious thing, but they need a chance to play, to make music as a community of students. This has to be about jazz or about music. It can't be about a trophy or something else. That can be a byproduct, but that can't be what the end game is. Also, recorded comments. Sheets are fine, but hearing recorded comments, that is a huge deal. And please, if you're doing one of these festivals, get those comments back to the band directors like that day. I know sometimes it takes a couple days, but just plan ahead of time, whether it be Google Drive or anything else. It's hard to go a week and not have comments, or a month in some cases. So get those comments back to people if you would. A clinic after your performance is 100% enormous. If you can have a performance and then get a clinic by an experienced educator who was probably one of your judges, that is just the way to go. Because not only are you performing, but then you're getting feedback, you're getting an opportunity to get better. Even if you're not playing that music again, it is enormous. It's huge. So for those of you who have festivals and there's no clinic afterwards, whatever you need to do, consider that it is a huge upgrade to any festival. A chance to see live music, ideally by people better than the students, especially professionals. So for a festival that I am able to host here in Maine, we have a professional jazz orchestra perform at noon. And we have bands starting there at 8 o'clock, kind of until 4 o'clock or whenever it ends. And everybody stays late if they're in the morning to watch the performance at noon, and everybody comes a little bit early to watch the performance at noon if they're performing in the afternoon. Because students sitting together and watching professional music is what it's all about. People doing what they're doing, especially if your group is one of the better groups in a festival, your kids getting a chance to watch that next level, or maybe just the professional level, is really, really enormous, inspiring to them, and it helps make your entire program better. We can talk about things all we want, right? We can talk about stuff, and playing recordings is huge for kids. Playing for kids is huge, but sitting in an audience and watching a performance, enormous. One thing we also do in our jazz festivals, we spend money with a local drum shop, actually called The Drum Shop, and we supply drum sets because we want to make this easy for the bands coming. We want to provide no barriers. So many times we provide vibes as well, or other things that we can do to help, obviously pianos. But when band directors realize they don't have to bring a drum set to a jazz festival, it's like, sign me up. I'm all about it. So we get to pay some money to do that, but it's totally worth it for the experience of the band directors. we run through 2 rooms with a warm-up room, a performance room, and a clinic room for 2 tracks of band. So that's 6 drum sets, and that takes a lot of time. But anything you can do to make it user-friendly for your band directors and schools to want to be a part of it. Like as well for us, when we get judges, they love seeing that there's no numbers. They love seeing that they just get to make comments and then work with a group. That's just, you get the best judges that way. Also, we have no requirements. There isn't a certain amount of tunes, certain length. If for some reason somebody is not programming what we would consider appropriate music for it, then that can be a discussion that's had, if that's appropriate. However, we've had so many groups come with 2 tunes, 1 tune, or 3 tunes, or 4 tunes. Just, you have this time slot and you use it the best of your ability. It's really all about the journey and the music making. So to me, that's the perfect jazz festival. That really is modeled in many ways after the Clark Terry Jazz Festival at University of New Hampshire. It's not about who's going to be the top performer. It's really more about the process. Kids getting inspired by watching live music, being able to perform with their community of musicians, and getting recorded comments as well as a clinic. Huge, huge, huge. At the same time, when we came out of COVID, I and some of the other colleagues that I work with, we had this idea for an honors jazz festival. Now, a lot of people have an honor band or an all-region band, right? And we have one for the jazz side of things too. Well, after COVID, there were so many kids who had never done this before. We were out 2 years from this stuff. So in order to start it again, the idea that we went with just on a hunch was, let's just do a nomination process, right? Let's start with that. Our goal is to get as many kids as possible to be able to be in this festival. So now fast forward 2 years, we have about 200 kids or so, a little bit under, who are nominated. And the band directors in that process just do a simple Google form, right? And in that Google form, they have to describe this student, because our job is to try to make some bands with kids who are like of ability levels that are like the other kids in the band without actually hearing an audition. And I'm not saying auditions are bad. Like in a lot of cases, you need to do auditions. But for us in a region opportunity, trying to get more kids has been better. So we get to kind of pair kids up. And it's not like every kid in the top band is the top player. They tend to be the better players, but it's really just about making some good music. So we've been able to have basically the concept and the philosophy in our district as you just get as many kids involved as possible, period. And you have to make some cutoffs because you can't have 200 kids in a jazz festival. But I'll tell you what, we now have 5 bands. 3 of them are high school, 2 of them are middle school. We have 5 great local conductors who choose music that many times are owned by the schools, or sometimes we have to purchase. So the fees are very, very small. The limiting factor is basically where can the host school host rooms, how many bands can they house? And for us, it's been a fantastic opportunity. We have over 100 kids playing in a jazz festival. So like what every teacher wants is their kid to go get a good experience. And then after that, come back, right? And when you come back, then those kids kind of spread that experience and that love and that knowledge to the rest of the kids in your band. And your program gets better because of it. So, I would much rather have 3 honor jazz bands, or heck, if you have more space, 5 or 6 honor jazz bands, rather than having less. And in this way, it's kind of as better for everybody, right? Everybody gets a chance. All these kids get a chance to learn and have this honor experience. It's just phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's a different approach, but in our district, in our area, it's worked really, really well. And I love it. It's not that it's not competitive. It's just about the music. And sure, as you make the cuts, is it easy to decide what kid's going to get in? No, like that's not easy at all. But, you try to do the best that you can and move on from there. And it's worked really well for us, and again, we've had a lot of people, similar to people who judge up here as well. We've had a lot of people come up and do the honor bands and just, they're amazed. They're like, you just walk through and there's 5 honor bands rehearsing within like 50 feet of each other in all these different rooms. And you can just go from room to room. You get great ideas for literature. You get great ideas for teaching because you're seeing these great teachers do it. And these kids just love the community of playing with some other kids. And to do this, you don't even need a formal district. Just find one other school and put together an honor band, and you'll see that grow like lightning. I tell you, if you have the right attitude about it and you just let it grow, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. So a couple ideas on, in this case, jazz festivals, but this could work for any festival as well. We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.